pleasure palace in the island of Ischia, or Capri, I think it was, Capri, where people still go and entertain themselves in the summertime, fun and games off of Naples. He used to have a swimming pool there. I think I told you that he used to nibble at the sexual parts of young boys as they swam above him in the pool. These were very depraved people, and Caligula was another one. Claudius was the best of the lot, and he was assassinated by his own wife. And then, because she wanted Nero, her son, to be the emperor, Nero came on, and he was totally insane. And he not only kicked his wife to death because she was pregnant, but had his mother killed, drowned in a boat and stuff. It's all in Suetonius and other Roman historians, these people. Then the war in Palestine came on, I think deliberately provoked by Nero, because he objected to the Jews' objections to him. When he blamed the fire in Rome on the Christians, I think we're talking at that time, there were no Christians as such. You're talking about Jewish Messianist agitators. The calling Christianity as we know it hadn't had time to develop at that time. So what he's calling Christians, people who were doing Messianic agitation, who may have set fire to Rome, actually, given what had happened in Palestine not long before. I see a sequentiality in these things. To my mind, the death of James could have provoked a reaction like we see in our own time by terrorists, who hit the heart of the great Satan, or who they consider responsible for this. So there may have been some truth to what Nero was saying. In any case, his response to the fire in Rome was to goad the Jews in Palestine to revolt. He blamed Christianity, or whatever you want to call it, on the Jews. He didn't see, as Mel Gibson tries to portray, that the Jews are against Christianity in some way. Christianity was a product of the Jewish people. They had to pay the price. The Jews paid the price in Palestine not because they were against Christianity. They may have been against Pauline Christianity. They paid the price, as Josephus makes it clear, because they were so messianic, not because they were anti-messianic. It's because so many of the young men, as Josephus portrays it, were enthusiastic for the messianic ideal. That's why they lost everything, and that's what the rabbis objected to afterwards by trying to curb this enthusiasm after the fall of the temple and so on. So you could get a sequentiality from the death of James to the fire in Rome to the war in Palestine. And Nero definitely goaded them. You read Josephus, it's quite clear. And the biggest ones who were goading them are the Caesarean legionnaires, who the book of Acts wants to totally whitewash as saintly. These were, even Josephus, who's a Roman, I hate to say backside licker, but I say the most polite way I can, who's a sycophant. Lackey is not quite the right word, he's more than that, he's a sycophant. Even he allows that the legionnaires in Palestine go to the Jews to revolt. They were encouraged to do so by the governors that the Romans sent out, and the governors were sent out by Nero, who had a particular animus against them. His wife seemed to have been interested in Jewish causes, because Josephus makes it quite clear that he met his wife through a theatrical person. You say, how do you know all this stuff, Professor Eisenman? You have to read it. It's in Josephus' Vita. You can be as well-read as me. It doesn't take anything. Just stop reading Vogue magazine and Rolling Stone and People and read something useful. And you'll know more, as much or more than I know. It takes a little bit of, and you don't have to go to a class to do it. And I didn't read any of this stuff in classes. You don't read anything in classes. Classes are just like, little sort of exercise that you go through. The real reading you do in life is what you do on your own, by yourself, because you're interested. There's no limit to it. You keep going because you're interested in it, not because some teacher like me or someone tells you to do it. Anyway, the point being, all this stuff is readily available. All you have to do is read it. Well, I say, what should I do? Can I pick up Suetonius' 12 Caesars? Oh yeah, I think you could. I don't see why you couldn't. There's no law against it. That's what the book was written for, so that you'd pick it up and read it. And then you'd know all about all the gossip of the Roman Empire, emperors at this time, and again, you'd know more than Mel Gibson, and you wouldn't have the temerity to make a movie out of ignorance and stupidity based on a 19th century Christian enthusiast visions. You would actually show what Palestinian history was about. You would not continue what are the words, accusations and libels that have caused such suffering and literally millions of deaths. You would not give currency to that kind of thing to revive it for another century or two of hatred and animosity in the name of some spiritual enthusiasm that you're promoting. So, yeah, reading is good, and Josephus, you can get all this about Josephus from his autobiography. We know he went to Rome, and we know he met Poppaea, the Emperor Nero's wife, the one who Nero later kicked to death, and maybe she might have even taken Josephus on as one of her lovers. Josephus might have been the cause of Nero kicking his wife to death. I don't know what he was upset about. Maybe Josephus even had her pregnant, I don't know, because he says here, she liked me and sent me off with many gifts. Well, usually royal figures don't send young whippersnappers like Josephus off with lots of gifts and things like that if they hadn't taken a particular shine to them. So who knows what happened there? I don't know. It covers over a multitude of possible sins you could imagine, including the fact he could have even been the one responsible for her pregnancy. Maybe that's why Nero kicked her to death when he was pregnant and learned that she was pregnant, knowing he hadn't done it. I don't know. I'm sure there was something of that going on there. Any case, and why was he so, incensed about Jews and Judaism? What caused him to be so insanely vindictive about the whole thing? Aside from the fire in Rome that some say he set to, but he also built this great palace called the Neronian, I think it's called, in a place where the fire had been, cleared the way for this huge palace that he built for himself. He said, oh, all this information is too difficult for me. Yeah, I know, it's too difficult for most people who work on the scripture. And that's why they know so little about what happened at this time. In any case, Nero reigned until about 68, when he too was assassinated by his, even his imperial guard, his, I forget what they were called, the Praetorian Guard were upset about him and came after him when all things were falling apart.